Good afternoon, everybody. We are so excited that you are joining us this lovely Thursday afternoon. Well, afternoon if you're on the East Coast. If you're on the other coast, I guess it's also afternoon, but maybe you're somewhere else around the world and it's not quite afternoon yet. But it's Thursday, and we're excited to be talking about Check-in Suite Fast Pass today. So on the call today, we're joined by a couple of our partners and, of course, Miss Megan, who is just doing a stellar job kind of helping us coordinate and keep the direction of the product going forward. So Megan, you want to say hi?
Hello, everybody.
Joining us is the team from Online Giving. So Amy, you want to say hello?
Hey guys.
So we're excited that Online Giving is joining us today, as well as the team at PocketPlatform. So Scott and Tyndall.
Howdy, everybody.
So this has been a really fun and exciting feature that we worked on. This was one of the first times we had the opportunity to really work on a feature from conception all the way through to execution and production that really leaned on our partners taking a major role in the feature coming to complete fruition. So Megan, I'm going to let you take it from there and dive in so that I don't spoil anything.
Okay, sounds good. Like Chris said, we have been having fun with this, so looking forward to get to show you a little bit and then also let Online Giving and PocketPlatform show as well. So as usual, I will be monitoring the question chat, so please put any questions you have down there and I will interrupt and or ask them at the end as usual. Do mark your calendars. Tomorrow we are having our UTC time zone and locale enhancements webinar to go over some of the cool additions we're adding there and changes that you can make if you want to leverage those. And then in a couple weeks, we are having a webinar with Sodium Halogen, one of our new partners who is doing some work for some of our churches, and they're going to kind of demo a little bit of some of the things they've been doing and see if there's anything that they can help y'all with. We started this check-in suite concept, and we were really excited about kind of how we were able to leverage PocketPlatform and Online Giving, and the fact that if we developed our own thing, then that's outside of the app that your congregation is already using. So we knew that that was going to probably be a non-starter for a lot of y'all, because getting your congregation to go to one place is hard enough. Trying to tell them like, oh, we'll go here for the sermon notes, but when you're trying to check your kids and go over here. And so to have to go two places we knew was going to be a challenge. So to be able to get it to you in a way that they can access it inside of something that they're already using as part of coming to church, we were really excited about that. So as far as the check-in suite side of things go, it works with the platform and check-in suite out of the box. So it is something that we have built into our standard check-in suite product and how that all writes back to the platform. So there's nothing special that has to be done to set up there. Obviously, you need to be using the Online Giving app or the PocketPlatform app in order to leverage this feature. And then as far as hardware goes, you'll also need some type of like a 2D scanner that can decode the QR code. And you need that scanner obviously connected to whatever you're using as your check-in station. These scanners don't have to be anything fancy. For our testing purposes, we got a semi-nice one for around $100. So you can probably find something for even less than that will work just fine. There's no special font required for if you use any type of ID or barcode in check-in previously. There is a special font required just because that's a different kind of scanner. A QR code scanner does not require any special font. And then just a tip that if you are getting this set up, that when you plug in that scanner and it gives you any properties for that scanner, there should be a way for you to tell it to not just scan, but to initiate a return, or basically hit enter after that is scanned, so that it will actually initiate the search and check-in. Otherwise, it's just going to put in the info and check-in, and the user is still going to have to click that search button. But that one little checkbox on the scanner will prevent that step and make it that much easier. As far as setting up the kiosk goes, again, it works out of the box, so there's nothing additional that you have to do with your contact, participant, events, or anything like that in the platform. It works with any combination of the search by settings, so I'll pop over to Check-in Suite in just a second and remind you where these are at, but you currently have the option in Check-in Suite to search either by name, phone, or ID, or any combination of those. But the FastPass is kind of even above that. So you can use FastPass at any station, no matter how you have these other search by settings set up. If you want to have a FastPass only station, you would leave all of these search by settings unchecked. so that it could only work for FastPass. So kind of lots of flexibility there for how you want to set up your stations. If you want to have some of your stations set up to really encourage people to use the FastPass and say these stations are only for FastPass people, or if you want to be able to let people do multiple things at a station, you can do that as well. Also, using the FastPass does not require that you print or have labels for everyone in the group. So if mom and dad and child are all checking in with the same QR code and only one of them set to get labels, that's not a problem. If you currently use the print preview in Check-in Suite to show people their labels before they print, that can still work as well, but again, it's not required. So a lot of the same workflow that you're used to in Check-in Suite, this is just additional functionality on top with not a whole lot of additional customization and just a lot more flexibility. So I will do a quick show of how that looks in Check-in Suite, and then we will toss it over to Online Giving and PocketPlatform. So I have my event set up. Again, nothing special that I have to do. I have people who are either registered for my event or connected to my event and essentially expected to come to the event because they are part of a group that is associated with a room reservation. So in this example, I have several nursery groups that are expected to be in the Apple's classroom. So anybody coming for those is also expected. So that's going to be a piece like usual that Check-in is looking for. Are these people expected to come to this event? Are guests allowed? So all of that functionality is the same. So I won't steal the thunder of our awesome app partners here, but once you have the code and you come up to a station that you have set up, you're going to scan with your fancy new 2D scanner. And it's going to input a code and again, if you've set it up correctly, it's going to also initiate that special search. And in my example, I don't have any labels that need to print based on how I have it set up. If I did, it could show that this is showing the quote unquote print preview. I could have unchecked the box so that it didn't show me the print preview and I didn't have to click anything else. So again, I would probably recommend that you do that, but I wanted to make sure you saw it basically goes through. It figured out who needed to be checked in, checked them in, there's that optional print preview, and it's done. It would have printed labels if they needed labels. And then if I go back and refresh, we can see that now all 3 of my family members that were in my little QR code have been checked in at that appropriate time. So very cool. And I will try not to steal any more thunder. I'm going to start by passing it over to Amy at Online Giving, and she's going to show you how things work on their side.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. This is a very exciting day to have this come to pass. I know this is something that when I worked in children's ministry, we desperately wanted, but was not available way back when. Can you see my screen or no? Because I don't see an option to share with you.
I saw it for a quick second. Let me try it again.
Aha, there we go. Now I've got the show my screen option. Okay, so do you see the pretty blue waves? Everything all nice and beautiful now?
I'm at the ocean with you, Amy. It's fabulous.
Awesome. This is wonderful. We want everything Online Giving to be refreshing for you as we digitally engage your church. So yes, we are excited about this check-in. We love building apps for our MP churches and love making it really feel like people are engaging with their church. And as with everything that we do in our app, the check-in is meant to respect every setting that you set up for your event in Ministry Platform. So as Megan was showing in her example, how her family, she didn't have labels to print. Well, your family, you may have labels to print, especially when it's an event involving children or youth, or, an event that has name tags. You can simply pull out your phone on your way to church or once you walk in the building, and you can check in whoever is there that day. And then once you have checked those people in, your QR code will come up and you are ready to go. And so what you do first on your app is that you select the event that you're coming to check in, and they'll also support guests and things of that nature if you're bringing someone with you. And then this is how it displays in the app to say, these are the events that are happening today. Then you just touch these little checkbox next to the people that are coming. So in this example, Daniel's beautiful kids are coming, and I know you can't have favorites of your own children, and it's really hard for me to pick a favorite of his, but I do have a favorite, and he knows who it is because she is hilarious. So you pick your kids, and hopefully they're not being a little too hilarious in line, because you just pick that in the car, and you're on your way in, and you come in and you can then have your QR code in your hand. You scan that lovely little code right under the QR code scanner, and it prints your labels out and you're ready to go. Or it checks you in and you're ready to go, and you see that on the screen. The great thing about having these QR codes and the way that we built it is that not only can you use it for that event, you can repeat it for other events as needed. So if you have a mom moment that I don't know if anyone else that's listening has had this happen, but my children frequently zap my brain out of my head. And on the way into church, I may have forgotten to pull it up for this week. And I'm like, oh my goodness, but I have last week's. You can scan last week's QR code and we'll let you check in that way as well. You just have to touch the screens for, oh, no, we're here for this event this time. So it's just one additional step. And you know that you have people that don't always follow the correct protocol when they're dealing with checking in or things at the church. So it's a very simple, easy to use system. And I'm really glad that we don't have 30 minutes to talk today, because it is meant to be something that is simple, that is just an extension of what you're already doing, that just enhances and makes that experience better for your users. When you're talking about the app, they need to come in a way that engages them in the church. And this might be the first entry point for a lot of your people into adopting your church app is, oh, I can use it for check-in now. That's great. And maybe before they didn't realize that their groups and things were in there as well. But this needs to be something that is a value add to everyone that's coming to church on Sunday, that makes everything run smoothly, and not just on Sunday, but during the weekdays when you're having other events that use check-in as well. You can use the barcode QR scanner for any type of check-in that you have. And thank you, Ministry Platform, for opening this up and not having us write it on our own.
Yeah, that's the other benefit is we didn't want to write the one side and you didn't want to write the other side. So it's a perfect partnership of let's each do what we do best. So we love that for sure.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you
so
so much.
But that pretty much does it, unless you have some questions or something that you feel like I didn't cover. It's meant to be as simple as it was just laid out. You tap your event, tap your people, ready to go, and everything's super fast.
Yes, that's awesome. Yeah, we will. I have one question in queue, but I want to save it for the end because I think it will be good for everybody to be able to address. I'm going to pass it over to Tyndall at PocketPlatform, and we'll get a little preview of how they've implemented it. And let me know, Tyndall, if you're getting the lovely invitation to be the presenter.
Yep, I just got it. And are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, we are super excited to share this with the community today as well. From the very beginning of the Pocket Platform development, this has been on our roadmap and our wish list as a function that we, for me, I've got 4 kids, and this was one where it's like, if I can develop this idea and make it work the way that it works in my mind, then it'll be a huge success. And I'm excited to share it with you guys. So I want to start by saying that this functionality is live and in the wild. We have 3 churches that are using it today, and all of our Pocket Platform customers have access to it. I want to give a special shout out to both Brandon Hollern at Church of the Nativity and Jason Lee at Northwoods for being very awesome guinea pigs and doing a tremendous amount of testing and work with us. They both came up with a number of different scenarios and edge cases and, real world scenarios where we could come up with some ways to test both the FastPass functionality in the app and check-in suite and make sure that all of the pieces tied together and flowed together well. So special thanks to both of them. I'm going to start by opening up the Church in the Nativity app. As with most things in the Pocket Platform world, the dashboard is kind of one of the driving forces for how FastPass can work. And so we can create dashboard recipes that enable or display FastPass. You'll see here at the top of the dashboard for Nativity, they have this FastPass logo, which they're going to be using around the church to promote the FastPass functionality. This recipe could be location-based, date and time-based, even registration status-based. So basically, we can promote this to people when it is an appropriate time for them to be able to do FastPass. So that's one really cool thing, which kind of ties in with facilitating your Sunday morning experience or your Wednesday evening experience. We can also promote this to people at the right times. And similarly, we can even do push notifications to people to remind them to use FastPass. And then once they click that FastPass screen, they're going to get a screen that presents them with the members of their household that have events that are coming up today that they can check into. And so you can see myself and my son Justice and my daughter Joy, we all have some events that we're able to check into. And this is kind of a normal, although the times are 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock, this is sort of similar to a Sunday morning experience where there may be multiple things that you can check into. And so I might select that Joy is going to be going to the Ignite 4th grade class at 3 o'clock, and Justice is going to be going to his 3 o'clock class while I'm in the Nativity staff meeting. But I'm going to be in both of those. So I can just quickly run down the list of my household members and look at those events and check the ones that are ready to go. And then I hit the Create Fast Pass and I have my QR code. The QR code is what I would present on my phone when I walk up to that kiosk. I have check-in open here on another screen. And so I'm going to enter that code and it's going to take me straight through the check-in process. And as Megan mentioned when she was talking about check-in suite, if you don't have print preview turned on, it's going to spit out the labels. I can't show that on the screen, but because I entered the code, it automatically searched and checked me into those events and the labels printed out automatically. So this would be sort of that kind of very seamless, very efficient process. So the main things that we're excited about are the ideas that on your way to church on a Sunday or a Wednesday or whatever, that you could hit that FastPass screen in a couple of clicks. You can very quickly, in 1 second, be able to create that QR code and then hit the kiosk, scan it, and your labels are printed out automatically. As Amy mentioned, one of the cool features is that if I happen to forget what I'm doing and I was on the dashboard and I can't remember what I'm doing, I can go back to that check-in screen. That QR code's still there. I can scan that QR code later today or next week. And one of those nice features of the check-in suite development that Think Ministry did was that QR code will work regardless of whether or not the events are current or not. So it'll still look me up and be able to present me with options for checking in. There's also an option for creating a dashboard recipe to actually show that QR code right here on your dashboard once you have created a FastPass check-in. So that's another option for users so that they can just literally open the app and be able to see that QR code right there. That's kind of the overview, and it'd be even cooler if you could see the label printer here spitting things out and the QR code scanner, but it's pretty awesome being able to see the things side by side with both the app and check-in suite on the screen. Again, we're super excited to be able to do that and excited by the opportunity to hopefully get to see some additional analytics and engagement information come into Ministry Platform, because you can use this to record attendance for things like worship. So in the example that I went through here, the Nativity staff event at 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock, that might be an event where you wouldn't typically require a user to print labels, but because they're looking at this FastPass screen, they would check that they're going to be present for that event. And now you have participation data on somebody that you might not have in any other way. So all really cool things. Megan, I think you said you had a question. Do you want to switch over to your screen, or you want me to show you something on our screen?
Yeah, well, I was just gonna first just piggyback off of what you just said before we switch into questions, because I have a question for both you and Amy to address, and we might swap back to her screen in a second. But just a general comment to kind of reiterate what Tyndall just said is that this is huge, not just for, kids and making life easier as you try to corral everybody through the door, but also for youth and adults who maybe have felt like checking in is a barrier, and so you haven't been taking attendance at youth or adult events because a teenager is too cool to sit there and type in their phone number, or you're trying to keep things moving as people come into the worship service or a large community group setting and they're adults, and so you feel like, we don't, some of our churches have done awesome, really convincing their small groups and such to leverage check-in when they're on campus, and this is just a way to kind of remove even more barriers, make it that much easier, make it feel cool, easy, simple, and just, like Tyndall said, grab more and more attendance data, because we know that that is a key piece to having a full picture of a person and their involvement at your church, their potential health, all those type things, and how you can serve them better the more data you have. So a question that came in that I think both would be great for both of you to address is, how have you guys thought about handling like a guest situation? So your daughter or your son brings someone with them. Is there a way that that can be handled when you're generating the FastPass, or is that something that needs to be taken care of like at an attended station at the church?
If they visited the church before and they're an existing guest, then they would probably, if they're associated to the household as like a guest child, they would pop up as an option for check-in, depending on that specific event. But if they're not already registered on our end, they would need to visit the check-in attendant.
Okay. And Amy, how did you? Oh, sorry.
That was Dan on our side.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. This is Dan at Online Giving. Sorry. This is Tyndall from PocketPlatform. And I was going to say, we handle it similarly in the sense that if a household has a guest child or any other household members that are related through other households, those would show up in the selection of, or the options to select in the FastPass process. We do have a mechanism that can be enabled, not enabled for our churches by default, but we do have a mechanism that would allow you to manage your household directly and add a guest. I think probably in most cases, what somebody would do if they had a guest child with them, kid's friend or something like that, they'd probably just go to the kiosk and do it there. But it is something that could be done through the app if you enabled that through our system.
Awesome. Have a question here just about, will this work if you use iPads? So that all depends on how you have things set up. So you will need to have the QR code scanner attached to the iPad so that it can read the QR code. But if you are using Check-in Suite on an iPad and you can attach that QR code reader, then that is possible. The printing would then depend on, I'm assuming you're either not printing labels if you're using an iPad, or you're printing remotely to a remote printer that's in the area or back in the room. So that all is not changed as far as the actual checking configuration goes.
Can I say something before you get to the next question?
Yeah.
I totally forgot to thank Woodside Bible and Grace Community Church and Seacoast Church. They did all of our testing for us, and our check-in is live in the app for anyone that wants it now as well. And I completely forgot to mention that. And Tyndall, you made me feel about like 2 inches tall, because those guys did an amazing job for us. And I'm really glad you thanked. No, that wasn't your fault. I meant to thank them. And I'm like, oh my gosh. When I heard you talking, I was like, oh no. So I love all of our MP churches. MP churches are the best. So I'm glad you had good testers too.
Yes, we always appreciate, that's one of the great things about our community is just how willing they are to jump in and try something and give feedback, and I love it. Okay, so I have a good question here. If someone completes the FastPass, so they generate the code, but they never actually get to the station to check in, what does that mean, or what does that look like? So I will actually steal the screen back here and answer that question quickly. Okay, so when you create the QR code, it is going to put people in as O2 status, so that the registered or expected status. So that's a way that you can know that they have generated. If it's a registration event, they might already be here. If it's more of a group-related event, they might just be expected. So that would actually be creating the participant record. And then when they check in, it updates their status to the attendant and puts that time in. So yes, you will be able to kind of track and see if codes are being created but not actually used. They're also I did not, because I didn't do it, I hacked my way into this backwards. But if like Tyndall or Amy were to pull up the system, the platform from the check-in that they did, there is a note that goes into the event participant record to say that it was created by FastPass. So that's another way you can kind of keep tabs on that. Okay, back to more questions here. Worship service for people who are not in a group or on the event, can they still check in? From the check-in side of things, the answer to that is yes. If you have your worship service event set to accept guests and to not prevent, to show people or to check people in even if they're not registered, that's fine. I will put it to Tyndall and Amy as far as how they handle that on their side as far as presenting available events. Will events present if guests are welcome and they can choose that in FastPass?
Yes, we basically handle it the same way in the app as it would be inside a check-in suite. The logic's exactly the same.
Awesome.
Yeah, same from the online giving side. So as long as it's a guest-enabled event, they can check into it.
Awesome. Okay, someone asking about if we have, morning worship service and then maybe Awana in the afternoon, can they use the same FastPass all day? Should they use it twice? Or should they, essentially generate one for the morning, one for the afternoon so that they don't get too many tags at the wrong time, that kind of thing. So that's probably going to be a little bit of a question of how you guys set up showing it, but some of that's also going to be a choice of how you kind of communicate it to your community as far as how they can handle it. Again, from the check-in side of things, I can say that if the event is available at the kiosk, when they go to check in, it's going to check them in. But if the event is outside of scope, so I'm trying to check in and check-in is not open for that event yet, it's not going to be able to check them in. Anything, Tyndall, Amy, you want to add to that?
I would just say NT designed the QR code to be very simple. So the QR code doesn't change. It's basically the household ID and the date. So don't worry about different QR codes. They'll actually be identical that entire day, no matter which event you check in. So you could go check into multiple events in the app and you would have the same QR code. So you don't have to worry about finding that particular QR code again because it's going to be identical for that whole day. And it's basically just the household ID and date. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, NP, but I believe you designed it even if the date is incorrect. Let's say you're using the QR code from a previous week, the check-in kiosk is smart and will still pull the household.
It'll pull up the household, but then you will have to select the event because it won't know what you're trying to check in. But yes.
Lots of tolerance there for user error.
The other thing I would add to that on the Pocket Platform side is that on the Pocket Platform screen that I showed, we honor the time settings on the event record for when to present, how far ahead of the event and how far after the event to allow check-in. So for that, for the question that came up, where you've got Sunday morning worship and Awana in the evening, if you wanted to configure that so that users could check in to Awana in the morning, then you would set your pre-check-in time accordingly so that it would be available for check-in on that screen. But if you didn't want it to be available and you wanted them to come back in the afternoon and have to check in again or separately, then you could set the time accordingly. So you do have some controls there in terms of what appears on the user's screen as events that are available inside of Pocket Platform to check in currently. So that may be another side of the answer to that question.
Awesome. Asking for if there's any restriction on creating the FastPass based on distance or location.
Not usually. It's usually a convenience thing. Like you might be somewhere else in another state for all we know. Before the event, you might be driving home from a vacation and you're in the car and you got time and you want to check in ahead of time. Right now, as long as they're signed into the app, they're a participant, a part of a group for the event, or the event is guest enabled, they'll be able to check in.
On the Pocket Platform side, there is room for customizing, as I mentioned earlier, the dashboard recipe to be location based. So if you wanted to present that FastPass option for people that are within a certain radius of church on Sunday morning, then you could do that. Or if you do not want to restrict it by location, you do not have to. So like I said, it's an option, but you don't have to do it necessarily, but you could.
Yeah, and just a reminder on that too, if they're out of state or driving, they're driving back from vacation and they go ahead and do it, but then they end up getting a flat tire or taking a turn and stopping and getting ice cream instead and never actually make it to church, that's okay because it will have recorded that they generated the QR code by, like I said, kind of queuing up the event participant, but it's not going to mark them as actually attended and checked in unless they physically show up and scan that code at one of the check-in kiosks. Any other questions before we wrap up here?
I just have one last comment, and that is that, as I was saying before, I love our MP churches and how you guys give feedback. I can't wait to see how this changes over time. As you know, we develop based on what your feedback and what your use cases are. So if you use online giving and you're one of our app partners and you have questions or you're starting to use check-in, let us know if you've got questions, if you need training on anything, or if you have good suggestions, because we love those. And thank you guys for all being such great MP participants and part of the community, because it is amazing.
Agreed.
Awesome. Yes. And thank you guys, Pocket Platform and Online Giving, for working with us on this. It was fun, and it was, like I said, a neat way for us to all leverage what we already do well. And that actually made it kind of simple in a way. I mean, we all obviously had work to do to make it happen, but it felt like a really good melding of skills and ability. So love this. Last question is this available already? Like I said, from the check-in suite side, after the July update several weeks ago, check-in suite can handle this. I know Tyndall mentioned that Pocket Platform, this is available, and I believe that Amy and Dan said it was available as well on Online Giving. So
yep,
I think
everyone's good to go.
Live and good to go. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much again for your time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Like I mentioned before, we have a webinar tomorrow about the time zone enhancements that we're making, and then in a few weeks with sodium halogen, and then I have several more kind of loosely in queue for the fall, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And thank you for your time, and we really look forward to seeing how you guys are going to leverage this feature. I am just super excited about it, and it was super fun to get to see it kind of live and in action. And look forward to hearing about all the awesome ways your church leverages it. And we will talk to you later. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.